Alright guys, if you could take all of your technological devices and shut them off real quick. Turn on your brain. Alright? Shh, hey you. Alright, we have a presentation. Alright, it's all about water and awesomeness, and I'm going to give the floor to this wonderful man, Mr. Andrew.
Hello, good morning. My name is Andrew Ivy. I am a recent graduate from the University of Central Florida. I have a degree in environmental engineering. And I work with a group called Engineers Without Borders. We have 2 water projects in rural Haiti. And I'd like to start off with a quote. One death is a tragedy, but a million deaths is a statistic. Might be a little scary to know that that's actually from Stalin. But I'm going to try and straddle that dichotomy in this lecture. This is a young boy I met in Haiti. He's the one who gets water for his family. He's about 8 years old, and he looks like he's 6. So, first of all, I'd like to start with a question. What is the largest single cause of death in human history?
Unsafe drinking water?
It's related to water. Good guess.
Lack of water?
Lack of water, dehydration, related.
Contaminated water. Water is mineral?
How about what kind of disease?
Heart disease.
No, that's a rich old person disease.
Cholera. Dysentery. Cholera.
All right, I'm hearing a lot of water stuff. I'm guessing you guys are guessing it because I'm here to talk about water. But let me tell you a few things that it's not. It's not war. It's not cancer. It is not famine. It's not AIDS. It's not old age. It's not even the plague. And now, in fact, if you summed up all the deaths in human history from each of those causes and summed that, it would not equal the number of deaths from this one thing. So, malaria.
That's a fly.
1 out of, let's see here, there have been about 80 billion people who have ever lived and died on planet Earth. Over half of those likely died from this disease. Over half. So take everything else, add it up, and it still doesn't equal this one cause of death. So malaria and mosquitoes have been with us since before we were even humans. It affects almost every mammal. Hippocrates detailed the symptoms of it back in ancient Greece. It likely killed Alexander the Great, likely leading to the end of the Greek Empire. It probably killed Dante the poet. Mummies have been found with signs of malaria. Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Ulysses S. Grant all probably had it at some point. In fact, my friend, when he went down to Haiti with us, he didn't take his pills because they gave him bad dreams, and he got it. And it's marked by a fever that's so high, that's what eventually kills you. And we're going to come back to malaria. Cholera. This is the one I bet you guys were thinking about. This is the cholera outbreak in London in 1854. For the longest time, people assumed that cholera was linked to touching. You know, you shake a person's hand, you pick up the same object as them, and you get sick from that. It's not the case. It's linked to water. And this is the first time someone did that successfully. What they did, it's John Snow, a nobleman. Noblemen were the only people who had spare time to study science and stuff like that, because they were the only ones who were not struggling to make ends meet. This is a map of London. Red diamonds are deaths, and this little sign is a pump where people get their water. And you can see little pumps that dot the town. And then you have this big circle of deaths. And right in the middle is a pump. And with this one study, he forever linked cholera with water. And what they did is they boarded up the well. No one was allowed to use it, and people stopped getting sick. and that closed the case. So cholera, pretty much you have excessive diarrhea, you can't get rid of it, and then you need to drink more water, and oftentimes water is scarce, and you die ultimately of dehydration. It's not a pleasant way to go. And in fact, 100,000 people die every year, as in 2013, from this one disease. Every year. So, next thing is an activity. I need to get out a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen. So I have listed here 7 countries: Brazil, China, the DR of Congo, Haiti, Mexico, Singapore, and the USA. And I would like you to rank them from highest to lowest of degree of development. And development can be whatever you define it as. It can be lifespan, overall quality of health, literacy, income per person, total income for the whole country, cubic yards of concrete poured, whatever makes sense to you. And I'll give you about 2 minutes to think about it and write your answers. Who's done? That wasn't 2 minutes. But it has over 1 million people in the Union Army from malaria. More people die in the Pacific side of the World War II conflict from malaria than from Congo. We have less as recently as the 40s. It's crazy. Yeah. Okay, so who's done? All right, who would like to share? Oh, come on, sir.
All right, I said U.S. number 1, China number 2, Brazil 3, Mexico 4, Singapore 5, Congo 6, and Haiti 7.
All right. Someone else want to give it a go?
I have Singapore, then U.S., then Mexico, then China, then Brazil, then DRC, and then Haiti.
All right. Those are some pretty good guesses. Next.
I have the U.S., Brazil, Singapore, China, Mexico, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Haiti.
All right. All right. One last one.
I put U.S., China, Singapore, Brazil, Mexico, Congo, and Haiti.
All right. Pretty good guesses.
Brazil's doing that well.
Oh no, it's not really bad. Blackouts were the best things.
All right. So this is a video by a guy who studies global health, and it is called 200 Countries Over 200 Years in 4 Minutes. Which means you don't need to take AP history.
Visualization is right at the heart of my own work too. I teach global health. And I know having the data is not enough. I have to show it in ways people both enjoy and understand. Now, I'm going to try something I've never done before. Animating the data in real space, with a bit of technical assistance from the crew. So, here we go. First, an axis for health, life expectancy, from 25 years to 75 years. And down here, an axis for wealth, income per person, $400,000, $4,000, and $40,000. So down here is poor and sick, and up here is rich and healthy. Now, I'm going to show you the world 200 years ago, in 1810. Here come all the countries. Europe brown, Asia red, Middle East green, Africa south of Sahara blue, and the Americas yellow. And the size of the country bubbles show the size of the population. And in 1810, it was pretty crowded down there, wasn't it? All countries were sick and poor. Life expectancy were below 40 in all countries. And only the UK and the Netherlands were slightly better off. Not much. And now, I start the world. The Industrial Revolution makes countries in Europe and elsewhere move away from the rest. But the colonized countries in Asia and Africa, they are stuck down there. And eventually, the Western countries get healthier and healthier. And now, we slow down to show the impact of the First World War and the Spanish flu epidemic. What a catastrophe! And now I speed up to the 1920s and the 1930s. And in spite of the Great Depression, Western countries forge on towards greater wealth and health. Japan and some others try to follow, but most countries stay down here. Now, after the tragedies of the Second World War, we stop a bit to look at the world in 1948. 1948 was a great year. The war was over, Sweden topped the medal table at the Winter Olympics, and I was born. But the differences between the countries of the world was wider than ever. United States was in the front, Japan was catching up. Brazil was way behind, Iran was getting a little richer from oil, but still had short lives. And the Asian giants, China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia, they were still poor and sick down here. But look what is about to happen. Here we go again. In my lifetime, former colonies gained independence, and then finally they started to get healthier and healthier and healthier. And in the 1970s, then countries in Asia and Latin America started to catch up with the Western countries. They became the emerging economies. Some in Africa followed. Some Africans were stuck in civil war and others hit by HIV. And now we can see the world today in the most up-to-date statistics. Most people today live in the middle. But there are huge differences at the same time between the best of countries and the worst of countries. And there are also huge inequalities within countries. These bubbles show country averages, but I can split them. Take China, I can split it into provinces. There goes Shanghai. It has the same wealth and health as Italy today. And there is the poor inland province Guizhou. It is like Pakistan. And if I split it further, the rural parts are like Ghana in Africa. And yet, despite the enormous disparities today, we have seen 200 years of remarkable progress. That huge historical gap between the West and the rest is now closing. We have become an entirely new converging world. And I see a clear trend into the future. With aid, trade, green technology and peace, it's fully possible that everyone can make it to the healthy, wealthy corner. Well, what you just seen in the last few minutes is the story of 200 countries shown over 200 years and beyond. It involved plotting of 120,000 numbers. Pretty neat, huh?
So what y'all think?
Become an entirely new country.
All right. So I want to stop it right here and just ask a few questions. What is the name of this graph? We have 400, 4,000, 40,000. You notice it's jumping by 10 every time. How come? Well, first of all, what is that called? What type of a scale? It's not linear. It's AP calc? What is it? Logarithmic. Logarithmic is the name. Where it jumps by tens instead of going, 401, 402, 403. It's called logarithmic. And what it does is it stretches this and it compresses this. Now, why would you want to do that? So think about this. If you are a farmer in rural Haiti and you make 300 to 400 bucks a year, now you don't really, because it's mostly done through trade, but let's just say 400 bucks a year. And now for whatever reason, you get a new tool, a new plow, horse, whatever, something. And you become more efficient and you get an extra 100 bucks every year. So you go from 400 to 500 every year. How big of a difference does that make in your life? Big. Because what? Your income increased by 25%. 25%, that's an extra 100 bucks. Huge. Now, let's just say you live in America and you're a young doctor, engineer, a teacher, and you're making $40,000 a year. How much is an extra 100 bucks? It's not a lot. It's a tank, maybe 2 tanks of gas. It's nice, but it's not a huge difference. It's what, 0.1% or 0.2% of your income. So what this does is it compresses over here and stretches out down there so that you can really see the discrepancies more. Because there is a difference in quality of life between countries where people make 400 a year and people make 600 a year. There is a difference. Let's check out your rankings. This is the final plot of your countries. So how many of you have heard of Singapore? All right, we've been getting about 50% every class so far. Singapore is right there. It's that little dot. Yeah. It's an island in Southeast Asia, and it has the highest concentration of millionaires in the world. Now, there is a difference between having a big country and a small country. It's it's tiny. It's basically the size of Miami, and that's it. And it's all developed. And what they do is that with low tax rates, they bring companies like IBM and Apple and stuff like that, and Microsoft to build a big plant there, and so they prosper off of that. So then here's the United States. This is Mexico. Brazil is hidden behind China, but it's actually between Mexico and China. This big one is China, obviously. Now remember that this is income per person. China has a lot of people and a lot of poor people out in the countryside. If we were going to go on total GDP for the entire country, they'd be about tied with the United States. But we're talking about people. So they're back here. This is Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And then this is the Congo, way over here. Lifespan under 50, lifespan up to 65 for Haiti. Of course, remember when he split China up? If you split Haiti into Port-au-Prince and the countryside, Port-au-Prince would be better off. And then lastly here is South Africa. See, it's kind of to the right, but kind of low. Like this is a line, and it's kind of deviated from that line. It's kind of underneath it. Why is it richer, but shorter lifespan? Ideas? It's HIV and AIDS. Excellent. It's on the richer side because it's very rich in natural resources, but they have shorter lifespans because they've been hit hard by HIV and AIDS. Now, if we go back to this original view, this is more or less the last frame. And you can see sort of clusters of populations. Up here, we have, the developed nations. You'll have Japan, South Korea, Singapore, the United States, most of Western Europe, and a smattering of smaller countries. Then you have this huge chunk in the middle, and then you have this cluster of countries that just don't seem to have done well. What are the discrepancies? Most of these are countries that caught on to the Industrial Revolution and have done well, or very small countries that are rich in natural resources. This clustering are countries that caught the two or three most recent waves of globalization, have emerging middle classes, and are doing better. But remember when we split up China, you go out into the countryside, there's still huge swaths of very poor regions. And then you have this cluster down here. And these are the people who are just trying to stay alive from day to day. And I'd like to show you one more video. It's 54 seconds long. And he breaks down the 7 billion people on Earth.
X means unknown, but the world is pretty known. It's 7 billion people. We have 7 stones. 1 billion can save money to fly abroad on holiday every year. 1 billion can save money to keep a car or buy a car. And then 3 billion, they save money to be able to buy a bigger bicycle or perhaps a two-wheeler. And 2 billion, they are busy saving money to buy shoes. In the future, they will get richer. And these people will move over here, these people will move over here. We will have 2 billion more in the world like this. And the question is whether the rich people over there are prepared to be integrated in a world of 10 billion people. That was the shortest TED ever.
Wait. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. So, the idea is, there are 7 billion people in the world. 1 billion live like us, where you can save enough to go on a big trip. About 5 billion in the middle, who are somewhere between saving up to buy for a car or saving up to buy for a bike. And then the bottom billion, which have to save up to buy shoes. So today we're going to talk about the billion people who have to save up to buy shoes. As of 2010, 1.2 billion people lacked clean water. 1.2 billion lacked adequate housing. 1.6 lacked access to electricity. And 2.4 lacked adequate sanitation. By that I mean toilets and soap. And I want you to remember that little quote I gave you. 1 death is a tragedy, of 1 million is a statistic. And the larger the number, the harder to grasp. 106 countries in the world are still affected by malaria, including Haiti, we're going to talk about in a moment. And 100,000 people die every year from cholera. As I said, I'm part of a nonprofit called Engineers Without Borders. We have water projects in Haiti. Other chapters have projects elsewhere in the world. And we chose Haiti because it's right on our doorstep. It's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. This is Florida. Orlando's right around there. The Caribbean, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Dominican Republic shares the island of Hispaniola with Haiti, and Haiti's right here. Haiti's kind of shaped like a backwards C, where you have a northern peninsula, a southern one, with Port-au-Prince, the capital, right in the middle. There are 9 million people who live in Haiti. It is among the most densely populated countries in the world. And we work in a little town here called Marbriol. It exists on the side of a road. That's where people get most of their supplies. What we do is we fly into Port-au-Prince from Miami. We drive along the coast, cut across country. We load up on supplies in Jacmel, the fourth largest city in the country. And then we take this mountain road over to Marbriol, where we work. How do people there live? People grow their own food. You and I go to the store. It's my friend James. The roads are so bad that he actually threw up outside the window, and for the rest of the trip he was known as Vomit Guy. We all thought it was funny. He didn't think it was so funny. People do everything for themselves. You and I, we, even with the economic recession, people losing their jobs, most of us still have a home that we didn't build ourselves. Most of us can go to the store to get groceries. Pretty sure most of us have clean water from the tap as much as we want. We can bathe. We have a room, probably to ourselves, that's all ours, a bed that's ours. And when something goes wrong, we can go to the doctor, usually. There in Haiti, you have to do everything for yourself. And if you don't know how to do it, things go wrong. If something goes wrong, your house falls apart, you're without a home. If your child gets sick, you usually can't afford to take him to a doctor. If there's no rain to get water from, then you have to start walking to the nearest spring. Which brings us to this. This is a young girl, she's 9 years old. I met her when I went to Haiti for the first time. And during the dry season, the 4 months in the dry season, they have to go to this spring. It's a round trip walk of 5 hours. You have to go every single day to get water. How often do you drink water? Every single day. So every single day, you're going to get water. It's about 2 hours there, an hour to stand in line, and 2 hours back. And who goes? It's usually the women and the children. Men are usually working, but think about all the time that's lost. Because the women are going to get water, they're not working. They're not being productive otherwise. They're not running a store. They're not farming. And the children, they're not in school. They're not helping with the crops. They're not helping with their younger siblings. They're going to get water. And what kind of water is it? This is a hole in the ground. And right around it, goats pee and poop. Little children pee. And you have bacteria, birds, mosquitoes, girls in bare feet, people with shoes on. And if you take that back home, put it in a bucket, and you're going to cook with it, or worse, drink it later, you get water like this. This is a Petri dish. It's a little plastic dish. I imagine you did this in biology in 9th grade. And all you do is you basically make a soup, a broth. It's called an auger, and it is chemicals with it so that it turns different shades when there is presence of microbes. So each of these pink dots, I put only 5 drops. 5 drops, just 5 drops from a bucket. And this is how many microbes we got. Each pink dot represents a fecal coliform, fecal meaning poop. And that blue dot right there represents E. coli. And E. coli is a killer. We have actually E. coli outbreaks in the United States still from time to time. And it has been known to kill people in America. So you can imagine the problems it causes in Haiti. And in fact, we learned when we went and interviewed people that people live on about $1 a day, usually less, and of course it's usually through trade, not really through acquisition of hard cash. And life expectancy out in the countryside is mid to low 50s, and the child mortality rate is about 20%. Meaning before they're 10 years old, about 1 out of 5 children will die. 1 out of 5. The oldest person I met was in her 60s, and she had outlived 5 of her children. Outlived 5 of them. So when we asked them, what can we do to help? They said they need more water, and they need it to be cleaner. So we're working on that. We're implementing older technology we call appropriate technology is appropriate for the developing world. And appropriate, I mean, it doesn't rely on motors or chemicals. Imagine you have a filter that relies on chemicals and a motor. The chemicals run out, where are you going to buy some more? Who can afford it? Whose responsibility is it? When a motor breaks down and you need to replace a part, one, there are no cars, so probably people there are not very familiar with fixing motors. Next is, where's the replacement parts? In the nearest town, which is probably a 4-hour drive. No one has a car. Not to mention, it might cost $50, and the most anyone has saved up is $10 to $20. So it's not going to get fixed. Haiti is a graveyard of failed water projects. So we wanted to find something that was simple. And this is what we found. We found what are called biosand filters. They are concrete boxes about waist high, this big, and they're filled with about 3 feet of sand, and that's it. What happens is the water goes in without treatment, and the microbes will latch on to the sand in the first 2 inches, and they'll start colonies, and it'll actually form what's called a biolayer. And it's like this crazy bacterium eat bacterium world where 80% of all the microbes that go in are eaten in the first 2 inches. And then the remaining 20% will starve to death as it flows through the sand on the rest of the way down. And it comes out about 98% clean, add a drop of bleach for a bucket of water, and it's 100% clean. You could drink it, I could drink it. And they do have bleach. And it costs about $50. They provide enough clean water every day for an entire household. You never have to replace the sand. And it provides enough clean water for up to 70 students. We put in a pilot project where we installed 6 in 6 different homes in Haiti. And they were well received. People were excited about them. And we're told that they have really cut down on the incidence of illness. So I wanted to expand. But before we could expand, as happens so often in the developing world, bad luck hit. Because there's low infrastructure, it hit hard. In January of 2010, a 7.6 earthquake hit Port-au-Prince, the capital, where 3 million people live. Now remember, you're in charge of everything in Haiti. You're in charge of your home, your health, your water supply, your kids' education, everything. And most people in Haiti do not have a degree in structural engineering. Most people do not have a degree in environmental engineering. And so meeting the basics is really hard, such as knowing and being able to afford steel reinforcing of concrete walls, tying down your walls to the foundation. And so you have entire swaths of neighborhoods where just everything fell over. 200,000 people were killed. One of our contacts there actually loaded up his entire flatbed truck with people to the hospital. By the time he got there, half of them had died. 1 out of 7 government employees died. It's hard to have a functioning government when over 1/10 have died. And it created 1 million internally displaced people overnight. And it's hard not to become attached to your projects. I became very emotionally invested in this project. And I got over the statistics part, and I got to feeling about the tragedy. And so we continued. We started building cisterns next time we went to Haiti a year later. Cisterns store water, rainwater, sorry. They look like that. They come off of the roofs, but they still need to be filtered. And we expanded the filters. We installed 34 water filters in 34 homes. It's about 300 people who now have access to clean water, who didn't have clean water before. It was about 10 people per household. And they've been a huge hit. After the earthquake hit, Peace Corps troops from Nepal brought in cholera by accident, and it hit most of the country, and including our region.
We're here to help you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And so, but just from anecdotal evidence, we're getting reports that they're working, and households with filters have not gotten sick. And so they're able to sell their water or give their water to family and friends. And we intend to expand. 300 people is about half the village. And we hope to get to the remaining half sometime later this year. So where are we going? Well, for the chapter of EWB UCF, we plan to continue our work in Haiti, expand to the rest of the village, and ultimately go to another town. As for the future of science and engineering, over the next 50 years, we probably will map the human brain. We might actually get a man over to Mars. We might actually cure cancer. These are things that are probably going to happen. Also, what's going to happen, the future of engineering is not just going to be a what, it's going to be a who. It's going to be about bringing the remaining billion people in poverty who need to save up just to buy a pair of shoes. It's going to be about bringing them up so that they can have enough clean water and meet the basics and hopefully catch the next wave of globalization. Thank you very much. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to field them. Questions? Comments?
Questions? Questions? You just got knowledge. What more do you need? Huh?
I just need like the rest of the class to shut up, so what do we...
Oh, they'll be responsible for it. This is why I'm filming it.
Next question. We give presentations to engineering firms and Rotary clubs and hold fundraiser. We actually held a 6K race a year ago. 6K, not 5K, because 6 kilometers is the average distance people have to walk every day in the developing world to get water. So 6K. And you could only place if you carried a gallon of water from the beginning to the end. It's kind of our gimmick. And it was a huge hit. We got 4,000 from that. We hosted a conference last fall. But that whole thing, all those filters and the cisterns cost about $12,000. Any other questions? All right, cool. Well, we got like a minute left.